Chapter 12. The Legacy of Indra and Asura. Hagoromo's death marked the end of the world's first great era. For many years, humanity had looked to a single figure for guidance. The sage of the six paths had defeated the ten tails, shared chakra with the world, and established the principles of Nenshu. Though disagreements had arisen during his lifetime, his presence alone had prevented those differences from erupting into widespread conflict. Now that presence was gone. Without Hagoromo to unite them, his followers gradually drifted apart. Asura inherited his father's role as leader of Nenshu, continuing to travel between settlements and encouraging cooperation among the growing communities. He devoted himself to preserving Hagoromo's teachings, believing that peace could only endure if people learned to trust one another despite their differences. Many remained loyal to him, others did not. Even after his defeat, Indra's philosophy had not disappeared. Those who had followed him continued refining ninjutsu, convinced that humanity's future depended upon becoming stronger than any threat it might one day face. They viewed power not as something to be feared, but as the foundation upon which peace itself rested. Neither philosophy vanished. Instead, both continued to spread. As generations passed, the descendants of the two brothers carried those ideals with them. Children inherited more than family names. They inherited stories, beliefs, and traditions. Most importantly, they inherited chakra unlike any possessed by ordinary people. The bloodline of Hagoromo remained extraordinarily powerful, although the strength of that chakra gradually became diluted over the centuries. Certain traits continued to appear among his descendants. Some displayed remarkable life force and resilience. Others possessed exceptional spiritual power and an innate talent for manipulating chakra. These gifts became defining characteristics of entire families. The descendants of Asura slowly became known for their incredible vitality, endurance, and ability to inspire unity among those around them. They valued cooperation above individual glory, and often formed large, tightly connected communities where strength was shared rather than hoarded. The descendants of Indra developed very differently. Generation after generation, they produced individuals gifted with extraordinary natural talent. Their chakra was refined, their intellect unmatched, and their ability to master increasingly complex forms of ninjutsu became legendary. Excellence was expected, and personal achievement became a source of immense pride. Although separated by philosophy, the two bloodlines remained connected by a common ancestor. They were all descendants of the sage of the six paths. Few could have imagined that these families would one day become the foundation upon which the entire Shinobi world would be built. Watching from the darkness, Black Zetsu remained patient. It had no interest in the rise or fall of individual families. To Black Zetsu, centuries were insignificant. Every generation simply offered another opportunity to move history a single step closer to Kaguya's return. It never sought to control entire nations. Instead, it whispered to individuals. It encouraged suspicion where trust already faltered. It nurtured ambition where pride already existed. A single conversation, subtle deception, or a carefully placed lie. Over enough generations, even the smallest influence could reshape history. Humanity believed its conflicts arose from its own choices. Black Zetsu intended to ensure those choices always led towards the same destination. The generations that followed Hagoromo's passing transformed the world in ways neither he nor his sons could have fully anticipated. Ninjutsu continued to evolve with remarkable speed. What had once consisted of simple techniques developed by Indra became increasingly sophisticated as each generation built upon the discoveries of those before them. New methods of manipulating chakra emerged, allowing skilled practitioners to create stronger flames, greater torrents of water, more resilient walls of earth, and winds capable of cutting through solid stone. Knowledge spread from teacher to student. Families that excelled in particular techniques guarded their methods closely, passing them only to their descendants. Over time, these traditions became closely tied to individual bloodlines, each developing its own identity, specialities, and reputation. As chakra became more central to daily life, so too did competition. Communities sought the most capable protectors. Families wished to preserve the techniques that made them unique. Leaders increasingly measured their strength not by the size of their harvests or the prosperity of their settlements, but by the skill of the warriors who stood beside them. The ideals of Ninshu had not disappeared. Many still believed in cooperation, compassion, and mutual understanding, but those ideals now existed alongside a world that placed even greater value on military strength. As the descendants of Asura expanded, they became known for something beyond their powerful life force. They possessed an extraordinary capacity to unite others. Wherever they settled, alliances formed naturally. Rival families often found common ground under their leadership, and communities grew stronger through cooperation rather than conquest. Their greatest strength was rarely found in any single individual, but in the loyalty they inspired among those around them. The descendants of Indra earned a different reputation. They consistently produced some of the most gifted chakra users in history. Their ability to learn complex techniques seemed almost instinctive, and their relentless pursuit of perfection drove them to refine ninjutsu to extraordinary levels. They valued discipline, precision, and individual excellence, believing that only the strongest leaders could protect those who depended upon them. Neither philosophy was entirely right, but neither was entirely wrong. Both had been born from the teachings of the same father. Yet with every passing generation, those differences became more deeply rooted. Black Zetsu quietly ensured they would never disappear. Rarely did it intervene directly. Instead, it watched for moments when distrust already existed, a disagreement over land, a misunderstanding between neighboring families, an insult left unresolved. These conflicts did not require Black Zetsu to create them. Human nature did that well enough. Its role was simply to make certain they never truly ended. A carefully whispered rumor could turn suspicion into hatred. A forged message could convince two allies that betrayal had already occurred. A single death, blamed upon the wrong family, could ignite feuds that lasted generations. No one ever realized another hand had guided events. To the people living through these years, every conflict appeared entirely their own. That illusion was exactly what Black Zetsu desired. If humanity believed it had chosen hatred for itself, no one would ever search for the force quietly nurturing it from the shadows. Century after century, the divisions widened. The descendants of Indra and Asura no longer viewed themselves simply as members of different families. They had begun to see one another as rivals. The brotherhood that once connected them had faded into memory, replaced by stories passed from parent to child, each generation inheriting a little more suspicion than the last. Few still remembered how the conflict truly begun. Fewer still understood that it had never ended. As the centuries passed, the descendants of Indra and Asura spread across the continent, giving rise to countless clans and families. Many eventually disappeared. Some were absorbed into stronger bloodlines. Others simply faded from history. A handful, however, grew powerful enough to shape the future of the world. Among the descendants of Asura emerged a clan renowned for its extraordinary vitality, immense chakra reserves, and unwavering resolve. Their members were respected not only for their strength in battle, but for their ability to unite those around them. Wherever they settled, alliances formed, villages prospered, and rival families often found common purpose. In time, these descendants became known as the Senju. The name reflected the diversity of their abilities. Rather than dedicating themselves to a single discipline, the Senju sought mastery over every aspect of combat and survival. They believed true strength came through adaptability, cooperation, and the willingness to protect others above oneself. The descendants of Indra followed a different path. Generation after generation, their remarkable spiritual power continued to manifest in exceptional chakra control and unparalleled natural talent. Their pursuit of perfection pushed them to master increasingly complex forms of ninjutsu, and they became feared throughout the land as warriors of unmatched skill. Over time, another inheritance began to reveal itself. During moments of overwhelming emotional trauma, certain descendants of Indra awakened a mysterious dojutsu unlike anything the world had ever seen. This was the Sharingan. The eyes granted extraordinary perception, allowing their users to read an opponent's movements, see the flow of chakra, and copy many techniques after witnessing them only once. As the Sharingan evolved, its abilities grew even more formidable, making its wielders some of the most dangerous shinobi alive. To those who possessed it, the Sharingan was a blessing. To those forced to face it, it became a symbol of fear. The clan that inherited these eyes eventually became known as the Uchiha. As the influence of both clans expanded, so too did the rivalry between them. Very few remembered Indra and Asura as real people. Their names survived only in scattered stories and fading legends, their true history lost to time. Yet their ideals endured. The Senju continued believing that lasting peace could only be achieved through trust, cooperation, and bonds forged between people. The Uchiha believed peace could only exist when protected by undeniable strength. Neither clan realized that they were continuing a disagreement that had begun nearly 1,000 years earlier between two brothers. Black Zetsu understood. Patiently, it watched the two bloodlines flourish. Everything had unfolded exactly as it had hoped. The descendants of Indra and Asura had become the two greatest powers of the age. Their rivalry ensured that conflict would never remain dormant for long. Every battle created more hatred. Every loss demanded revenge. Every generation inherited the burdens of the one before it. The cycle had become self-sustaining. No longer did Black Zetsu need to guide every conflict. Humanity had learned to continue the cycle on its own. As small disputes over land, resources, and influence became larger and more frequent, powerful clans began hiring themselves out as warriors. Children inherited the feuds of their parents, growing up with weapons in their hands long before they understood why they fought. The ideals of ninchu had become little more than distant memories. The age that Hagoromo had dreamed of was fading into legend. In its place, a far harsher era was beginning. History would remember it as the Warring States period. Chapter 13. The Warring States period. For centuries, the shinobi world knew no lasting peace. There were no hidden villages, no Hokage, no Kage Summit, no organized nations protected by standing military forces. Instead, the land was divided among countless independent clans, each struggling to survive in an age where conflict had become a constant part of life. Some clans controlled fertile valleys. Others occupied mountain strongholds or dense forests. Many possessed only a handful of members, while a select few grew into military powers whose names inspired fear across entire regions. Borders existed only as long as the clan possessed the strength to defend them. When that strength faded, another family claimed the land. War was not an extraordinary event. It was simply the natural state of the world. The great nations that would one day dominate the continent had not yet taken shape. Powerful nobles and feudal lords ruled scattered territories, constantly competing for influence, wealth, and resources. Rather than maintaining permanent armies, these rulers relied upon shinobi clans to fight on their behalf. The arrangement benefited both sides. The lords gained skilled warriors without the burden of maintaining an army during times of peace. The clans received food, money, weapons, and land in exchange for their service. As a result, nearly every conflict became a business opportunity. A dispute over farmland, a disagreement concerning trade routes, an argument regarding succession. Each could quickly become a battlefield, as rival lords hired rival clans to settle their disagreements. Victory belonged not to the side with the greater cause, but to the side capable of hiring the stronger shinobi. For the clans themselves, survival depended upon reputation. A family known for producing exceptional warriors attracted wealthier clients. Those clients provided better resources. Better resources allowed stronger children to be trained. Stronger children secured greater victories. The cycle reinforced itself with every generation. Failure carried devastating consequences. A clan unable to fulfill its contracts soon found itself without income. Without income came hunger, and without food came decline. Eventually, entire bloodlines vanished from history, not because they lacked courage, but because they lost too many warriors to continue protecting themselves. No clan could afford weakness. From the moment a child was born, every family measured that child's potential. Natural talent was celebrated. Extraordinary chakra was considered a blessing. Children who showed exceptional promise began training almost as soon as they could walk. Games gave way to drills. Lessons became survival. Wooden practice weapons were replaced by real blades long before most children had reached adulthood. The innocence of childhood became a luxury few families could afford. Many young shinobi never experienced it at all. Death arrived early during the Warring States period. Some died defending their homes, while others fell protecting contracts they barely understood. Many never learned why they had been sent to battle in the first place. To them, the enemy was simply the clan standing on the opposite side of the battlefield. Generation after generation, children inherited wars that had begun long before they were born. Hatred became an heirloom, passed from parent to child as naturally as family names and bloodline techniques. Few questioned the cycle. Fewer still believed it could ever end. For nearly 1,000 years, this was simply how the world worked. Peace was remembered as an ideal. War was accepted as reality. Although countless clans existed throughout the continent, only a handful possessed the strength to shape the course of history. Most families struggled simply to survive from one generation to the next, accepting whatever contracts they could, and hoping enough of their warriors would return alive to continue the bloodline. The stronger clans, however, grew into military powers whose names became known far beyond their own territories. Feudal lords sought their services. Rival clans measured themselves against them, and entire conflicts were decided by which side managed to secure their allegiance. Among these great clans, none inspired more respect or fear than the descendants of Asura and Indra. The Senju had earned a reputation for being unmatched in versatility. Rather than devoting themselves to a single style of combat, they trained their members to adapt to nearly every battlefield imaginable. A Senju shinobi might excel with a blade, master several chakra natures, possess remarkable endurance, or demonstrate exceptional skill and strategy. No single trait defined the clan. Their greatest strength lay in their ability to overcome almost any obstacle through cooperation, discipline, and an unwavering commitment to protecting one another. Even rival clans acknowledged that facing a Senju force meant confronting warriors who fought as though every member of the clan were part of a single family. The Uchiha became renowned for a very different reason. Their natural talent for combat was already extraordinary, but it was the Sharingan that transformed them into legends. Stories spread throughout the land, describing warriors who could predict an opponent's movements before an attack had fully begun, copy techniques after seeing them only once, and maintain a calm precision even in the chaos of battle. To many outside the clan, the crimson eyes of the Sharingan became an omen of death. Entire units reportedly abandoned battlefields after realizing they were facing Uchiha warriors, believing the outcome had already been decided. As both clans expanded, they found themselves accepting many of the same contracts. Feudal lords understood that hiring either clan dramatically increased the likelihood of victory. Naturally, if one lord secured the services of the Senju, his rival sought the Uchiha. If an Uchiha banner appeared on one side of the battlefield, it was often only a matter of time before Senju warriors arrived on the other. What began as occasional encounters slowly evolved into something far greater. Neither clan could remember exactly when the rivalry had begun. The names Indra and Asura had long since faded into myth, surviving only in fragmented stories whose true meaning had been forgotten. Yet the emotions those brothers had carried, pride, resentment, determination, and the desire to prove the superiority of their ideals, continued to echo through every generation. Children grew up hearing tales of victories over the opposing clan and mourning relatives who had fallen to them. By the time they were old enough to wield a weapon, many had already decided who the greatest enemy would be. It became increasingly common for members of the Senju and Uchiha to recognize one another across the battlefield despite never having met before. They knew the armor each clan favored, the symbols sewn into their clothing, and the techniques that had been passed down through generations. Entire families could spend their lives fighting the same enemy, each battle serving only to deepen wounds that neither side truly remembered how to heal. For the ordinary people caught between these conflicts, the distinction mattered little. Farmers abandoned their homes as armies crossed their fields. Villages rebuilt after one battle, only to be destroyed by the next. Merchants traveled with armed escorts whenever possible, knowing that a contract dispute between two distant lords could suddenly transform the roads into an active war zone. To those who lived through the era, peace was not something that had been lost. It was something they had never experienced.